Sophie Bennett was having the kind of day that made her question every life decision that had led her to this exact moment. It started with her alarm not going off, or rather, going off and being aggressively snoozed 6 times until she jolted awake at 7:47 a.m. with the kind of panic that makes your heart try to escape through your ribcage. She was supposed to be at the Upper East Side property viewing at 8:30 with her boss and extremely important clients. The coffee incident happened at 8:15. Sophie had grabbed her travel mug, her portfolio of architectural plans, her bag and her dignity, what was left of it, and sprinted for the subway. She made it onto the train just as the doors closed, which felt like a small victory until the train lurched, and her coffee lid, which she definitely remembered securing, except she clearly hadn't, popped off and dumped 16 ounces of vanilla latte directly down the front of her white blouse. "No, no, no, no," Sophie whispered, staring down at the rapidly spreading brown stain that made her look like she'd been attacked by an extremely aggressive coffee fountain. The businessman next to her pretended not to notice. Everyone in New York had mastered the art of politely ignoring other people's catastrophes. By the time Sophie arrived at the $15 million penthouse viewing, she was 20 minutes late. Wearing a blazer buttoned all the way up to hide the coffee disaster, and seriously reconsidering her career choice. Maybe she should have become a park ranger. Trees didn't care if you were late. Trees didn't judge coffee stains. "Bennett, there you are!" Marcus Chen, senior architect and Sophie's boss, shot her a look that could have curdled milk. "The Harrisons are waiting. Try to look professional." Sophie bit back about 12 sarcastic responses and followed Marcus into the penthouse, clutching her rolled-up architectural plans like they were a security blanket. The penthouse was, objectively, stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows, original hardwood floors, a terrace that wrapped around the entire unit with views of Central Park that probably cost more per square foot than Sophie's entire apartment. The kind of place that made you understand why people became architects, to create spaces that made you feel something. Sophie hung back while Marcus did his thing, schmoozing with the Harrisons and another potential buyer who'd shown up. Some guy in an expensive suit who looked like he'd walked off a Calvin Klein billboard. Tall, dark hair slightly messy in that way that was definitely intentional, jawline that could cut glass. He had that casual confidence of someone who'd never worried about a coffee stain in his life. Sophie pointedly ignored him and focused on taking notes about the crown molding. The viewing lasted 45 minutes. Sophie nodded at appropriate times, handed Marcus the plans when needed, and tried not to think about how much she was sweating under her fully buttoned blazer in the middle of June. Finally, mercifully, it ended. "I'll be in touch," Marcus told the Harrisons, shaking hands all around. "Ms. Bennett, head back to the office. I'll meet you there." Sophie nodded, gathered her things, and made her escape. The elevator in the building was one of those fancy glass ones that offered a panoramic view as you descended. Normally, Sophie enjoyed them. Today, she just wanted to get back to the office, change into the emergency shirt she kept in her desk, and possibly hide under her desk for the rest of the day. She hit the button for the lobby and leaned against the elevator wall, closing her eyes. The doors started to close. Then a hand shot through, triggering the sensor. The doors reopened. Calvin Klein billboard guy stepped in. Of course the universe would trap her in an elevator with someone who looked like that, while she looked like a coffee-stained disaster hiding under a blazer. Sophie pressed herself further into the corner, trying to become one with the elevator wall. The guy didn't acknowledge her, just pressed the button for the 15th floor and pulled out his phone. The elevator started its descent, smooth, quiet, expensive. Sophie stared at the floor numbers, 42, 41, 40. She could feel him looking in her direction. Or maybe she was being paranoid. She was probably being paranoid. Why would he be looking at her? She looked like she'd lost a fight with a Starbucks. But no, he was definitely looking. Sophie could see his reflection in the glass. His phone was down and he was staring at something. Near her. At her? Sophie's internal alarm system started blaring. She'd dealt with enough creeps on the subway, in bars, at professional events, where men thought networking meant staring at her chest. She knew that look. 35, 34, 33. The guy sighed. Actually sighed, like he was moved by something. Sophie's jaw clenched. Do not engage, she told herself. Just get to your floor and... My eyes just keep going back, he said, his voice carrying in the quiet elevator. Sophie froze. Oh, hell no. Here's such a beautiful view, he continued, and Sophie could hear the smile in his voice. I can't stop staring. Something snapped. Sophie spun around, and before her brain could catch up with her body, her hand connected with his face in a slap that echoed through the elevator like a gunshot. Pervert, she yelled, her voice loud enough to probably be heard on every floor. You cannot go around sexually harassing women in elevators. I am reporting you to HR, you absolute... The guy stumbled back, hand flying to his cheek, his expression somewhere between shock and pain and complete confusion. What? What are you... Don't play dumb. My eyes keep going back. Beautiful view. You think I don't know what that means? You think I haven't heard that kind of... I was talking about the penthouse, he shouted, pointing frantically at the glass elevator walls. The property, the terrace view of Central Park. You were there, you were literally standing right in front of me during the entire viewing. Sophie's brain screeched to a halt. The elevator continued its descent. 28, 27, 26. She looked at him. Really looked. Recognition slammed into her like a physical force. Oh God. Oh no. He had been at the viewing. He was the other potential buyer. He'd been standing near the windows the whole time, looking out at the park. And she'd been so focused on not embarrassing herself that she'd barely registered his presence. The elevator had glass walls. He'd been looking at the view, the Central Park view that was admittedly spectacular and probably the penthouse's main selling point. Oh my God, Sophie whispered. Yes, the guy said, his hand still on his cheek, which was rapidly turning red. Oh my God, you hit me. You assaulted me. I thought you said... Sophie's face was burning so hot she was surprised she hadn't spontaneously combusted. The view, you were looking at the park, through the glass, not at... Jesus Christ, lady. I was literally just appreciating the architecture. He looked at her with something between disbelief and horror. Who just hits people? The elevator dinged. 15th floor. The doors opened directly into the lobby of Morrison & Associates where Sophie worked, where approximately 15 of her co-workers could now see her standing in an elevator with a man who had a bright red handprint on his face and looked like he'd just been attacked by a feral cat. Marcus was walking past. He stopped, stared. Bennett? What the... Sophie made an executive decision. She ran. Papers flying, blazer flapping, dignity completely abandoned. Sophie sprinted past Marcus, past the reception desk, past her desk, and straight into the women's bathroom. She slammed into a stall, locked it, and pressed her back against the door, breathing like she'd just run a marathon. From outside the bathroom she could hear muffled voices. Marcus, definitely. And another voice, deeper, angry, probably belonging to the man she'd just slapped. You hit me, she heard him yell, the sound carrying even through the bathroom door. Sophie slid down to sit on the floor, her head in her hands. This was it. This was how her career ended. Not with a brilliant design or a successful project, but with her assaulting a potential client in an elevator. Because she'd misread a situation so badly, she should probably just move to a different country and start over. Her phone buzzed. A text from Priya, her best friend and fellow architect. Girl, where are you? Emergency meeting in 5 minutes. Everyone's freaking out. Sophie stared at the text. An emergency meeting. Perfect. Just perfect. They were probably going to fire her in front of the entire office. Maybe they'd make it a learning moment. And this, everyone, is why we don't assault people in elevators. Another text from Priya. New CEO is back from Europe. Alexander Morrison III. Apparently he's been gone for 3 years and now he's taking over. Everyone's losing their minds. Sophie barely registered the information. She was too busy replaying the elevator scene in her head, each replay making her want to die a little more. A knock on the bathroom door. Sophie, you okay? Priya's voice. No, Sophie called back. I'm never leaving this bathroom. I'm going to live here now. Bring me food. Girl, you need to get to this meeting. Like now. Morrison is apparently super intense and... Wait, why is there a guy with a handprint on his face talking to Marcus in the lobby? Sophie closed her eyes. Of course he was still there. Of course he was talking to Marcus, probably pressing charges. She'd assaulted a rich guy. Rich guys had lawyers, good lawyers. Sophie, seriously, we need to go. Meeting in 3 minutes. With the enthusiasm of someone walking to their own execution, Sophie stood up, smoothed down her blazer, and emerged from the stall. Her reflection in the mirror looked exactly how she felt, like a disaster. Okay, she told Priya, let's go get fired. Why would you get... You know what? Tell me later. Come on. They speed-walked to the main conference room, where the entire office was already gathering. Sophie slid into a seat in the back, trying to make herself as small as possible. Maybe if she was very quiet and very still, the universe would forget she existed. The current interim CEO, Gerald Hoffman, walked to the front of the room. Thank you all for gathering on short notice. As you know, we've been operating under interim leadership since Richard Morrison's retirement 3 years ago. Today I'm pleased to announce that his grandson, Alexander Morrison III, is returning to take his rightful place as CEO of Morrison & Associates. The room buzzed with whispers. Sophie tried to focus on looking interested while internally screaming. Alexander has spent the last 3 years studying sustainable architecture in Europe, working with master craftsmen and environmental designers. He brings fresh perspective and innovative ideas to our firm. Please join me in welcoming back Alexander Morrison. The conference room doors opened. Sophie's heart stopped. Walking into the room, still in his expensive suit, still with the red handprint on his face, was Calvin Klein billboard guy, the guy from the elevator, the guy she'd slapped, her new CEO. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Sophie watched recognition dawn on his face, followed by something that looked suspiciously like vindication. "Oh no," Sophie whispered. "What?" Priya hissed. "What's wrong? Why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Alexander Morrison III cleared his throat, his gaze still locked on Sophie. "Thank you, Gerald. I'm excited to work with this passionate team," he said, passionate while looking directly at her, and Sophie wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. "As I was saying," Alexander stopped mid-sentence, still staring at Sophie. The entire room turned to see what he was looking at. Sophie tried to disappear into her chair. "We have a lot of work ahead of us," Alexander continued, though his eyes never left her face. "And I look forward to getting to know each of you. Some of you I've already had the pleasure of meeting." The meeting ended in a blur. Sophie tried to sneak out, but Alexander's assistant, a terrifyingly efficient woman named Margaret, appeared at her elbow. "Ms. Bennett, Mr. Morrison would like to see you in his office now." Priya grabbed Sophie's arm. "Girl, what did you do?" Sophie looked at her best friend, her career flashing before her eyes. "I'll tell you, if I survive." She followed Margaret down the hall, each step feeling like walking toward the gallows. They stopped in front of the corner office, the big one, the one that had been empty for 3 years. Margaret knocked, then opened the door. "Miss Bennett, sir." "Send her in." Sophie stepped inside. The door closed behind her with a click that sounded like a coffin lid. Alexander Morrison III sat behind his desk, his hand pressed to his cheek. The slap mark had faded slightly but was still visible. "Sit," he said. Sophie sat. They stared at each other in silence for a long moment. Then Alexander leaned back in his chair and said, in a voice that was somehow both amused and furious, "So, you assault potential clients often, Ms. Bennett? Or was I special?" Chapter 2. The new boss. Oh no. Sophie had imagined many ways her career might end. Fired for a bad design, laid off during budget cuts, maybe crushed by falling building materials in a tragic but poetic workplace accident. She had never imagined it would end because she'd slapped her CEO in an elevator. Alexander Morrison III sat behind his massive desk, one hand still pressed to his cheek, looking at her with an expression that somehow managed to be both furious and amused. It was hard to tell. Sophie was too busy having an out-of-body experience to properly read facial expressions. "Well," he said when she didn't respond, "I'm waiting for an explanation, preferably one that doesn't involve more physical violence." Sophie's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She probably looked like a fish, a very panicked, coffee-stained fish. I thought you were looking at me and saying that the view was beautiful. Yes, we've established that." Alexander leaned forward and Sophie couldn't help but notice how his suit jacket pulled across his shoulders. Stop it, brain, not the time. What I'm trying to understand is why your first instinct was assault rather than, say, asking what I meant. I've had, Sophie struggled for words, experiences, bad experiences, with men in elevators and offices, and basically everywhere. She was rambling now, her face burning. There was this guy at my old internship who would corner me by the coffee machine and comment on my assets, and another guy at a site visit who asked if I was the architect or the eye candy. And don't even get me started on the contractor who told me I should smile more while mansplaining load-bearing walls to me, even though I literally have a degree in structural engineering. So you have a hair trigger for harassment. I get it. Alexander's expression softened slightly. And look, I respect that you stood up for yourself, really. Women deal with enough crap in this industry. Sophie blinked. That was not what she'd expected. So, I'm not fired. Oh, you absolutely should be fired. Alexander stood up, walking around the desk. He was tall, like really tall. Sophie had to tilt her head back to look at him. You physically assaulted the CEO on his first day back. HR would have a field day. I could make a very compelling case. Sophie's heart sank, but... Alexander leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. The movement made his biceps visible through his shirt. Sophie desperately tried to focus on his face. My reputation in this company is already the rich kid who ran away to Europe. I don't want my first act as CEO to be firing someone over a misunderstanding. Bad optics. So, I'm not fired, Sophie said slowly. Not yet. Alexander smiled, but it wasn't a particularly friendly smile, more like a shark spotting something interesting. But you're going to make this up to me, Ms. Bennett. The way he said her name, slow, deliberate, with just a hint of something that made her stomach do a weird flip, should not have affected her the way it did. Make it up to you how? Sophie asked cautiously. Alexander walked back behind his desk and pulled up something on his computer. You were junior architect on the Riverside project, correct? The sustainable housing development in Brooklyn? Yes, but I was just assisting Marcus. Marcus quit. Alexander spun the monitor to show her an email. This morning, sent his resignation at 6 a.m. No notice, no explanation, just effective immediately, I'm out. Sophie's jaw dropped. What? But he's been with the firm for 12 years. He was lead on Riverside. He's gone. Which means Riverside needs a new lead architect. Alexander's smile widened. Congratulations, Ms. Bennett. You just got promoted. Sophie's brain short-circuited. What? No, that's a $15 million project. I've never led anything bigger than a bathroom renovation for my aunt. Then I guess you'll learn fast. Alexander pulled out a file folder, sliding it across the desk. Daily progress reports, to me. Starting tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. sharp. 7 a.m. Problem, Ms. Bennett, I thought you'd be thrilled. This is a huge opportunity. His expression was pure innocence, but his eyes were definitely laughing at her. Unless you think you can't handle it. And there it was, the challenge. Sophie recognized it immediately. She had 3 older brothers. She knew what a dare looked like. I can handle it, she said, lifting her chin. Good. Alexander stood, clearly dismissing her. Oh, and Sophie. She paused at the door, hating how her name sounded in his voice, casual, familiar, like they hadn't just met under the worst possible circumstances. Yes? Next time you think someone's being a pervert. He touched his cheek, where a faint red mark was still visible. Maybe ask before you assault them, just a thought. Sophie's face burned. Noted, sir. Alexander. He sat back down, already looking at his computer. We're going to be working closely together. Might as well use first names. Sophie fled the office before she could do something stupid, like apologize again or, worse, stare at how his jaw clenched when he concentrated on the screen. Priya was waiting outside, practically vibrating with curiosity. Well? I got promoted, Sophie said, still in shock. What? That's amazing! Sophie, he's punishing me! Sophie grabbed Priya's arm, dragging her toward their desks. He's making me lead Riverside as punishment for slapping him. It's a setup. He wants me to fail so he can fire me with cause. Or, Priya said slowly, he actually thinks you can do it. Priya, I slapped him. In an elevator. He had a handprint on his face during his first company meeting. Sophie collapsed into her desk chair. There's no universe where this ends well. I don't know. Priya glanced back toward Alexander's office. Did you see the way he looked at you during the meeting? That wasn't "I'm going to fire you" energy. That was "I'm intrigued" energy. You're insane. I'm observant. There's a difference. Priya grinned. Also, not to make this worse, but he's stupid hot. Like stupidly hot. Like I would let him ruin my life hot. Priya, I'm just saying, and you get to have daily meetings with him at 7 a.m. alone. Priya waggled her eyebrows. That's very intimate. Sophie threw a stress ball at her. It's professional, it's about work, oh my God, I have to prepare a presentation for tomorrow morning, and I don't even know what Marcus was working on because he kept me out of all the important meetings. Then you better get to work. Priya stood, patting Sophie's shoulder. Look at it this way. At least your day can't get any worse. Priya was wrong. Sophie spent the next 8 hours drowning in project files, specifications, contractor emails and budget spreadsheets that Marcus had apparently organized using some kind of chaos system only he understood. By 9 p.m., she was the last person in the office, surrounded by empty coffee cups and the crushing weight of imposter syndrome. She was so focused on the structural drawings spread across her desk that she didn't notice someone approaching until a coffee cup appeared in her line of vision. Sophie jumped, nearly knocking over her laptop. Jesus! Rough night. Alexander Morrison stood next to her desk, holding 2 cups of coffee. He'd lost the suit jacket and tie, his sleeves rolled up to his forearms. It should have been illegal how good he looked, slightly disheveled. What are you doing here? Sophie asked, then immediately regretted her tone. I mean, sorry, I just thought everyone had gone home. I'm still on European time. Jet lag's a bitch. He set one of the coffees on her desk. Figured I wasn't the only one here late. Peace offering? Sophie eyed the coffee suspiciously. You're not going to fire me if I drink it, are you? If I was going to fire you, I would have done it this morning. Alexander pulled over a chair from the neighboring desk, sitting down backward on it. What are you working on? Trying to figure out Marcus's organizational system, which is to say no system at all. Sophie took a sip of the coffee. Perfect somehow, even though they'd never discussed how she took it. Did you know he was planning to quit? No clue. His email was as much a surprise to me as everyone else. Alexander leaned forward, studying the drawings on her desk. Show me what you've got so far. For the next hour, they went through the project together, and Sophie had to admit, grudgingly, very grudgingly, that Alexander knew his stuff. He asked smart questions, caught errors Marcus had left in the plans, and suggested sustainable solutions that were actually innovative, not just trendy buzzwords. Here, Alexander said, reaching across her to point at a specification. His arm brushed against hers, and Sophie's brain momentarily forgot how to function. If you switch to reclaimed materials here, you'll cut costs and reduce environmental impact. I worked with a supplier in Italy who sources from demolished buildings. We could do something similar. That's... Sophie looked at the drawings, then at him. He was close. Very close. She could see the faint stubble on his jaw, smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. That's actually brilliant. Alexander met her eyes, and something passed between them. Something that made Sophie's breath catch. Thanks, he said quietly. Not just a pretty face with a handprint on it. Sophie laughed despite herself. I am so sorry about that. For the record, I probably deserved it. I should have been clearer about what I was looking at. Alexander smiled, a real smile this time, not the shark smile from earlier. But maybe next time just ask, what are you looking at, creep, before going full MMA fighter. Next time, you planning on making more ambiguous comments in elevators? I'm planning on working with you for the foreseeable future. Statistics say I'll probably say something stupid again. He stood, stretching. Sophie definitely didn't notice how his shirt rode up slightly. Definitely not. 7 a.m. tomorrow, Bennett. Don't be late. Wouldn't dream of it, sir. Alexander, he corrected, and again the way he said it made her stomach flutter. We're going to be spending a lot of mornings together. Might as well be on a first-name basis. He walked away, and Sophie watched him go, completely confused by the last 2 hours of her life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Priya. "Girl, I'm tracking your location and you're still at the office. Go home, sleep." "You need to be pretty for your hot boss tomorrow," Sophie typed back. "He's not hot. He's infuriating." Priya. "Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Also, you're a liar. I saw you looking at him during the meeting." Sophie. "I was looking at his face, trying to assess how badly I'd hurt him." Priya. "Sure, Jan. Get some sleep. And wear something cute tomorrow, for confidence." Sophie looked at the empty coffee cup Alexander had brought her. She picked it up, saw her lipstick mark on the rim, and noticed his was on the opposite side. "Oh no," she whispered to the empty office. "Oh no, no, no." She was in so much trouble, and not the getting fired kind. The much worse catching feelings for your boss who you assaulted in an elevator kind. Sophie packed up her things, turned off her desk lamp, and headed for the elevator. When the doors opened, she hesitated for just a moment, remembering this morning's disaster. Then she stepped in, pressed the button for the lobby, and caught her reflection in the glass walls. Her hair was a mess. Her shirt still had a faint coffee stain. She had bags under her eyes that could carry groceries, and she was smiling. "I'm so screwed," Sophie told her reflection. The elevator descended into the New York night, and Sophie couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just started something she had no idea how to finish. 7 a.m. tomorrow. She better figure it out fast. Chapter 3. Damage control and making it worse. Day 1 of Sophie's promotion started at 6:47 a.m. when she realized she'd forgotten to set her alarm and woke up in a panic that could only be described as primal. She arrived at Alexander's office at 7:03, sweaty from sprinting 3 blocks, her hair in a messy bun that was more survived a tornado than effortlessly chic, carrying a coffee as a peace offering. Alexander looked up from his laptop, perfectly composed in a navy suit, not a hair out of place. He made a show of checking his watch. "You're late." 3 minutes. "Still late." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "I was starting to think you'd fled the country." "Considered it," Sophie muttered, setting the coffee on his desk. "Bribery. I brought you coffee." Alexander picked it up, examined it, then took a sip. His eyebrows rose. "How did you know I take it black?" "Lucky guess," Sophie lied. She'd absolutely asked Margaret yesterday, and maybe stalked his LinkedIn profile, for professional reasons. "Uh-huh." Alexander's mouth quirked in that almost smile that was becoming dangerously familiar. "So, Riverside, show me what you've got." Sophie pulled out her hastily prepared presentation on her laptop. She'd been up until 2 a.m. working on it, surviving on coffee and the crushing fear of failure. Okay, so Marcus's original timeline was aggressive, but doable if we what? Alexander leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Keep in mind, I've actually read Marcus's plans. Multiple times, so if you're just regurgitating his work..." It was a test, obviously a test. "Marcus's timeline was garbage," Sophie said, then immediately panicked. "I mean, not garbage, but..." "No, you're right, it was garbage. Continue." Sophie blinked. "Oh, okay. Well, he didn't account for the historic preservation requirements on the eastern facade, which means we need to add at least 3 weeks for additional approvals. And his material sourcing was all over the place. He's got suppliers from 6 different states when we could consolidate to 2, maybe 3 if we..." She pulled up her revised spreadsheet. "Use local reclaimed materials like you suggested last night, which would actually save us money and time." Alexander leaned forward, studying her screen. "You redid the entire budget." "I couldn't sleep." Sophie clicked to the next slide. "Also redid the timeline, flagged potential issues with the plumbing contractors. Marcus had notes about them being difficult, which is code for they don't show up on time. And I called 3 alternative contractors this morning at 6 a.m. "You called contractors at 6 in the morning. One of them was already awake. He was very helpful. The other 2 hung up on me. But that's fine, I have backup options." Sophie was on a roll now, her nervousness transforming into the kind of manic energy that came from too much coffee and too little sleep. "And I know you're going to say this is aggressive, but I think we can beat Marcus's timeline by 2 weeks if we..." "Breathe, Bennett." Sophie stopped mid-sentence. Alexander was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. somewhere between impressed and amused. You did all this since yesterday. I'm highly motivated not to fail. Sophie closed her laptop. Also, I'm terrified of you. Good. Alexander stood, walking around the desk. Sophie's heart did that stupid flutter thing again. Fear is an excellent motivator. But Bennett? Yes? He leaned against the desk, close enough that Sophie caught that woodsy cologne again. You don't need to be scared. This presentation was good. Really good. Better than anything Marcus showed me in the 6 months before he quit. Sophie's brain short-circuited. Really? Really? Alexander smiled, still with that edge of, I haven't forgotten you assaulted me, but warmer. Same time tomorrow. And Bennett, maybe get some sleep, you look like a zombie. Wow. Charming. I'm your boss, not your boyfriend. I don't have to be charming. He paused. Although if I were your boyfriend, I'd probably still tell you that you look like a zombie. Honesty is important in relationships. Sophie's face burned. Good thing you're just my boss then. Good thing, Alexander agreed, but his eyes were laughing at her. Day 3. Sophie arrived at 6:58 a.m. She was learning, carrying 2 coffees this time, one for her, one for him. Bribery again? Alexander asked. Strategic relationship building, Sophie corrected, handing him the cup. Plus, I figured if you're going to criticize my work, the least I can do is caffeinate you first. Smart. He took a sip, then made a face. Although this tastes like burnt socks. It's the coffee from the cart on the corner. I was running late and... Wait, do you make a habit of tasting burnt socks? Alexander laughed, actually laughed, a full genuine sound that made Sophie's stomach do gymnastics. Fair point. No more corner cart coffee. There's a good place 2 blocks over. I'll text you the address. You're going to text me coffee recommendations. I'm going to text you so you stop bringing me beverages that taste like regret. He pulled out his phone. What's your number? Sophie rattled it off, trying not to think about the fact that her boss now had her phone number and they were discussing coffee like normal people, not like she'd assaulted him less than a week ago. Her phone buzzed immediately. A text from an unknown number. This is Alexander. Not a pervert, just your boss who appreciates good coffee. Sophie couldn't help but laugh. Did you just make a joke about the elevator incident? I'm going to make jokes about the elevator incident for the rest of your career here. Alexander sat down, gesturing for her to start the presentation. Consider it your penance. Now show me the contractor updates. Day 5. Sophie showed up with coffee from the place Alexander recommended. It was objectively delicious and cost $8, which was insane, but she'd expense it. Probably. Much better, Alexander said after the first sip. See, I'm helping you become a coffee snob. You're welcome. My bank account hates you. Your bank account will love you when you're a senior architect making actual money. He nodded at her laptop. How's the materials sourcing going? Sophie pulled up her spreadsheet, but before she could start, she noticed Alexander was wearing different glasses today. Thinner frames, more modern. They made him look less CEO and more approachable, which was dangerous. New glasses? She asked before she could stop herself. Alexander looked surprised. Yeah, I usually wear contacts, but I was up late last night and... Wait, you noticed my glasses? I'm observant. Sophie's face heated. It's an architect thing, we notice details. Uh-huh, details. His smile was pure mischief. What else have you noticed, Bennett? That you're stalling so you don't have to look at my spreadsheet. Busted. But he was still smiling as he leaned forward to look at her screen. They spent the next hour going over material costs, and somehow it turned into a debate about sustainable building practices that got heated enough that Sophie forgot to be nervous. She argued her points. Alexander challenged them. She defended her reasoning. He conceded several points with a fair enough that felt like a victory. You're passionate about this, Alexander said when they finally wrapped up. It's important. If we're going to build housing, we should build it right. Not just fast, not just cheap, right. Sophie closed her laptop. That's why I became an architect, to make things that matter. Alexander studied her for a long moment. You know, when I first came back, I thought this company had lost its soul. Everyone just chasing profits, forgetting why we do this work. He stood, walking to the window. You remind me why I came back. Sophie's heart stuttered. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone you met less than a week ago. Someone who slapped me less than a week ago, Alexander corrected, glancing back with that infuriating smirk. Let's keep the facts straight. Are you ever going to let that go? Never, it's too good. He turned fully, leaning against the window. The morning light behind him was unfairly flattering. Although I have to say, Bennett, you're making it very hard to stay mad at you. Is that a problem? Possibly. Alexander's expression turned more serious. Because you work for me. And there are rules about things. Things. Professional boundaries. Appropriate workplace relationships. HR policies I'm supposed to enforce. He ran a hand through his hair, making it even more disheveled. Things I'm definitely not thinking about right now. The air between them felt thick, charged with something Sophie was afraid to name. We should keep this professional, she said, not entirely sure who she was trying to convince. Definitely, completely professional. Alexander pushed off from the window. Same time tomorrow, Ms. Bennett. The formal address felt like a step backward, but maybe that was safer. Same time, Mr. Morrison. Alexander, he corrected quietly. When it's just us, it's Alexander. Sophie nodded, not trusting her voice, and fled before she could do something stupid like climb him like a tree. Day 8. Sophie arrived at 7 a.m. sharp to find Alexander already in the conference room instead of his office, surrounded by actual physical material samples. Change of venue, she asked. Thought we could look at these together, make decisions on the reclaimed wood. He gestured to the samples spread across the table. Touch them. Tell me what you think. Sophie set down their coffees. She'd been bringing 2 every day now, it was basically routine, and moved to the table. She ran her hands over the wood samples, feeling the grain, the texture. This one, she said, pointing to a piece of reclaimed oak. It has character. You can see the history in it. That's what I thought too. Alexander stepped closer, reaching for the same sample. His hand brushed against hers. Neither of them moved. Sophie looked up. Alexander was already looking down at her. They were close. Very close. She could count his eyelashes close. Sophie, he said, his voice lower than usual. Alexander, she breathed. I'm still mad at you. For the record. Noted. Like, actually mad. You hit me pretty hard. I have brothers. I learned from the best. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. But he was smiling now, that soft, real smile that made her knees weak. Although, I have to admit, what? It was kind of hot. The whole standing up for yourself thing. Even if you were completely wrong about the situation, Sophie's brain was malfunctioning. Hot. Don't let it go to your head, Bennett. But he hadn't moved away. If anything, he'd shifted closer. We still have professional boundaries to maintain. Right, boundaries. Very important boundaries. Critical boundaries. Neither of them moved. The conference room door burst open. Sophie, emergency. The contractors found a... Priya froze, taking in the scene. Sophie and Alexander standing extremely close, hands nearly touching on the table, both looking guilty as hell. Oh, am I interrupting something? Sophie jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. No, nothing, Alexander added, also stepping back quickly. Just looking at wood samples. Uh-huh, wood samples, sure. Priya's grin was enormous and evil. Well, sorry to interrupt your wood viewing, but there's actually a problem at the Riverside site. Something about the foundation. I'll get my things, Sophie said, grateful for the escape. As she rushed past Priya, her friend whispered, Girl, that was not just professional. Shut up, Sophie hissed back. But Priya was right, and that was terrifying. Because Sophie was developing feelings for her boss, her hot, infuriating, still technically mad at her boss, who she'd slapped, in an elevator, less than 2 weeks ago. I'm so screwed, Sophie muttered as they headed for the elevator. Behind her, she could swear she heard Alexander laugh. Chapter 4. Daily 7 a.m.s and growing tension. Day 10. Sophie was bent over a set of blueprints spread across Alexander's desk, using a ruler to measure spacing, when she heard his office door open. "Morning, Bennett. Nice view." Sophie's head snapped up so fast, she nearly gave herself whiplash. "What?" Alexander stood in the doorway, holding 2 coffee cups, his expression pure innocence. "The blueprints. Nice view of the structural layout. What did you think I meant?" "Are you—" Sophie's face was on fire. "That's not funny." "It's a little funny." He set the coffees down, still grinning. "You should see your face right now. It's the same color as that red marker you're holding. You're the worst." "I'm hilarious. There's a difference." Alexander leaned against his desk, way too close to where Sophie was still bent over the blueprints. "Although, if we're being honest, it is a nice view. The blueprints, I mean. Very wasn't detailed." Sophie threw the red marker at him. He caught it easily, laughing. "Are you going to assault me again? Because HR specifically asked me to document any repeat incidents." "You told HR." "Bennett, you left a handprint on my face for 3 days. People noticed." Alexander's eyes were dancing with amusement. "My mother called to ask if I was in a fight. I had to explain that my junior architect mistook me for a pervert and attacked me in an elevator." "What did she say?" "She said, and I quote, 'Well, were you being a pervert?'" Alexander took a sip of his coffee. "I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist." Sophie couldn't help it. She laughed. "Your mum sounds cool." "She is. She also wants to meet you." Alexander said it casually, but Sophie caught the slight tension in his shoulders. "Apparently, the woman who slapped my son is a dinner table story now. You're famous in my family." "That's horrifying." "That's what I said. She's already planning a dinner party." Alexander moved back behind his desk, creating professional distance that somehow felt worse than the closeness. "Anyway, show me what you've got for the foundation issue." Sophie tried to focus on work. Really, she did. But it was hard when Alexander kept making little comments that could be interpreted as either completely professional or mildly flirtatious, and she couldn't tell which was intentional. "This structural support is impressive," he said, pointing at her redesign. "Thanks, I worked hard on it. I can tell, very firm, solid foundation." He glanced up at her. "The design, I mean." Sophie narrowed her eyes. "Are you messing with me? Would I do that?" Alexander's expression was the picture of professionalism. "I'm simply complimenting your architectural skills, Ms. Bennett." "You're back to Ms. Bennett now. Only when I'm being professional, which is always, because we're professionals." But his mouth was twitching like he was fighting a smile. "You're impossible. And you're fun to mess with. It's a good dynamic." Day 12. Sophie was reaching for a file on the top shelf of Alexander's bookcase when she heard his voice behind her. "Need help?" She turned to find him directly behind her, close enough that she was essentially trapped between him and the bookcase. Yes, no, I can get it." Alexander reached over her head, easily grabbing the file, but he didn't immediately step back. Instead, he handed it to her while maintaining eye contact, and Sophie forgot how breathing worked. "You know," Alexander said conversationally, "if I didn't know better, I'd say you were trying to show off your reach." Sophie's brain blue-screened. "My what?" "Your vertical reach, it's impressive. Very architectural." His smile was absolutely evil. "What did you think I meant? I hate you." "No, you don't." He finally stepped back, and Sophie could breathe again. "You just hate that I'm winning." "Winning what?" "The game of who can make the other more flustered." Alexander returned to his desk. "Current score, me, approximately 1 million. You, 0. That's not... We're not playing a game, aren't we?" Alexander looked up at her, his expression suddenly more serious. "Because, Sophie, if we're not playing a game, then we need to talk about what this actually is." Sophie clutched the file to her chest like a shield. "It's professional. We're being professional." "Right, professional." Alexander's voice was dry. "That's why my heart rate goes up every time you walk into my office." Sophie's breath caught. "Alexander." His desk phone rang. Alexander swore under his breath, then answered it. "Morrison, yes, no, I'm fine, I'll be right there." He hung up, standing. "Board meeting, emergency. We'll continue this later." "There's nothing to continue." "Sophie." He paused at the door, There's absolutely something to continue, and we both know it. He left and Sophie stood in his office for a full minute, trying to remember why falling for your boss was a terrible idea. Day 14. Sophie was working late again, shocking no one, when Alexander appeared at her desk at 8 p.m. You practically live here now. Sophie didn't look up from her laptop. Says the guy who's also still here. Fair point. Alexander pulled up a chair, sitting backward on it like he had that first night. It should look ridiculous on a CEO. Instead, it looked unfairly attractive. Want company? Depends. Are you going to make more double entendre comments about my work? Probably. It's become my favorite hobby. Alexander leaned his arms on the chair back. Although in my defense, you make it easy. How do I make it easy? You blush. Every time. It's adorable. Sophie finally looked up. I do not blush. You're doing it right now. Alexander grinned. See? Adorable. I'm going to slap you again. Please don't. I've gotten attached to my face the way it is, handprint free. He nodded at her screen. What are you working on? Trying to finalize the interior design elements. The client wants modern but warm, which is basically meaningless. Let me see. Alexander rolled his chair closer, studying her screen. They were shoulder to shoulder now. Sophie could feel the warmth radiating from him. What if you went with these fixtures instead? Alexander pointed, his hand brushing against hers on the mouse. More industrial, but the brass tones warm it up. That's actually perfect. Sophie made the change. How did you... I spent 3 years learning from craftsmen who actually know what they're doing. Alexander was still close, still not moving away. Unlike some people who just assault first and ask questions later. Oh my God, are you ever going to let that go? Never. It's too good. Alexander turned his head, and suddenly they were face to face, inches apart. Although I have to admit, if I'd known you were going to turn out to be this interesting, I might have been clearer about what I was looking at in that elevator. Sophie's heart was pounding. And if I'd known you were going to be my boss, and actually kind of amazing at your job, I maybe would have asked questions before resorting to violence. Maybe? Okay, definitely. I definitely would have asked. Sophie bit her lip. Although what? If I'd known it was you... Sophie couldn't believe she was saying this. I might have let you look a little longer. Alexander's eyes went dark. Sophie! Sophie! Priya's voice echoed across the empty office. I know you're still here because I'm tracking your... Oh my God, not again! Sophie and Alexander sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents. Priya stood 10 feet away, hands on her hips, looking like an exasperated mother. Seriously? Seriously? This is the 3rd time I've walked in on you two having what is very clearly a moment. Priya pointed between them. And before you say it's not what it looks like, it's exactly what it looks like. We were just discussing fixtures, Sophie said weakly. Fixtures, right. Is that what the kids are calling it these days? Priya crossed her arms. Look, I love you both, but this UST, unresolved sexual tension for those not fluent in romance tropes, is killing me. Either do something about it, or stop looking at each other like you want to commit HR violations. Priya. Sophie's face was approximately the temperature of the sun. Alexander, to his credit, just laughed. She's not wrong. Not helping, Sophie hissed at him. I'm never helping, I'm just here to make things more complicated. Alexander stood, grabbing his jacket from the back of his chair. But Priya has a point. Sophie, we should probably talk. Somewhere that's not the office. Somewhere that's definitely not in front of Priya. I can still hear you, Priya said. I'm right here. We're aware. Alexander looked at Sophie. Tomorrow night, dinner, not work, not professional, just us, talking about this. He gestured vaguely between them. Sophie's brain was short-circuiting again. That's a date. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Alexander's expression was more serious than she'd seen it. Sophie, I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss, I know we probably shouldn't, but I can't keep pretending I'm not... He glanced at Priya. Can you please go away for 30 seconds? Absolutely not. This is the most entertaining thing that's happened all month. Alexander sighed. Fine, Sophie, I like you more than I should, more than is probably appropriate. And I hope you feel the same way. So, tomorrow night, dinner. We figure this out like adults. Okay, Sophie heard herself say. Tomorrow night. Good. Alexander started to leave, then turned back. Oh, and Sophie. Yeah? Wear something nice. Not that you don't always look nice, but you know, date nice. He paused. Also maybe leave your slapping hand at home. Sophie threw a pen at him. He dodged it, laughing, and left. Priya immediately collapsed into the chair Alexander had vacated. Oh my God. Oh my God. Don't start. Don't start? Girl. That was the most romantic thing I've ever seen, and it happened in our office at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, surrounded by architectural drawings. Priya grabbed Sophie's shoulders. You're going on a date with Alexander Morrison. The Alexander Morrison. Your hot boss. Who you slapped. I'm aware of all these facts. This is the best rom-com I've ever witnessed in real life. I'm investing in popcorn stock because I need snacks for this journey. Priya pulled out her phone. Okay, what are you wearing? We need to plan this. Does he know your dress size? Should I stalk his social media to see what his type is? Wait, you're his type. You slapped him and became his type. This is insane. Priya, I have to work tomorrow. Work? Work? Sophie, you're going on a date with your boss. We're calling in sick tomorrow to prepare. This is a national emergency. We can't both call in sick. Watch me. Priya was already typing. I'm texting everyone we know. Dress emergency. Sophie has a date with... Wait, can I tell people? Is this secret? I don't know. We haven't even gone on the date yet. Minor detail. Priya stood, pulling Sophie up with her. Come on, we're going to your apartment. We're raiding your closet. We're planning your entire conversational strategy. We're making sure you don't accidentally assault him again. That was one time. Yeah, and look where it got you. Third promotion and a date with a millionaire CEO. Priya grinned. Honestly, maybe we should all try slapping our bosses. Seems to work out well. Please don't start a workplace violence trend. No promises. As they left the office, Sophie's phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. For the record, I'm glad you slapped me. Best worst first impression I've ever made. Sophie smiled, typing back. If I'd known it would lead to this, I might have slapped you harder. Alexander. Careful, Bennett. That sounds like a challenge. Sophie. Maybe it is. Alexander. Tomorrow night. 7 p.m. I'll pick you up. And Sophie. Sophie. Yeah? Alexander. Bring your A-game. I plan to properly impress you, without any misunderstandings about what I'm looking at this time. Sophie. We'll see about that, Morrison. She pocketed her phone, ignoring Priya's squealing, and tried not to think about how spectacularly this could all blow up in her face. But for the first time since the elevator incident, Sophie wasn't scared. She was excited, and maybe, just maybe, ready to stop fighting whatever this was between them. Even if it meant navigating the most complicated workplace relationship in the history of workplace relationships. At least it would make a good story, assuming she didn't slap him again. No promises on that front, though. Chapter 5. The View. For real. This time, the date never happened. At 4 p.m. on Friday, 3 hours before Alexander was supposed to pick Sophie up, Priya burst into the bathroom where Sophie was stress-applying mascara for the third time. Sophie, emergency, Riverside, the foundation, it's bad. Sophie's stomach dropped. How bad? Like, entire project might be delayed 6 months bad. The contractors found structural issues. Alexander's already on his way to the site. He said, Priya checked her phone, and I quote, tell Bennett to get her ass to Riverside now, bring the revised plans, rain check on tonight. Sophie's heart sank for multiple reasons. Rain check? That's what you're focusing on? Not the structural disaster? I can multitask my panic, Priya. 20 minutes later, Sophie arrived at the construction site in her date outfit, a dress she'd spent 2 hours picking out, heels that were completely inappropriate for a construction zone, and mascara she'd definitely smudged while stress-crying in the Uber. Alexander was already there, surrounded by contractors, his sleeves rolled up, his hair disheveled in a way that should not be attractive given the crisis, but absolutely was. Bennett. He spotted her, did a double-take at her outfit, and something flickered in his expression. You look Is that what you were going to wear tonight? Emergency trumps fashion. Sophie picked her way across the muddy site in her heels, immediately regretting every life choice. What's the damage? Come see. Alexander led her to the southern corner where several contractors stood around looking grim. The soil composition isn't what the initial survey showed. We can't build on this without additional support, which means redesigning the entire foundation. Sophie felt panic rising in her chest. That's weeks of work. The permits alone. Alexander, this is my fault. I should have caught this. I should have... Sophie, breathe. Alexander's hand was suddenly on her arm, warm and steadying. This isn't your fault. Marcus should have caught it in the initial survey. We'll fix it. How? We're already behind schedule. The clients are going to... Sophie's voice cracked. This is it. This is where I fail, and everyone says told you she couldn't handle it. She just assaulted her way into the promotion. Stop! Alexander turned her to face him, his hands on her shoulders. Look at me. Sophie looked up. His eyes were intense, focused entirely on her. You got this promotion because you're good. The slap was just a memorable introduction. A small smile played at his lips. And honestly, you were right to be defensive. Women deal with enough crap. You thought I was being a creep. You protected yourself. I respect that. Sophie blinked. You respect that I hit you? I respect that you don't take shit from anyone, even when you're completely wrong about the situation. Alexander's thumb brushed against her shoulder, probably unconsciously. Sophie, you've been incredible these past 2 weeks. You've worked harder than anyone, caught errors Marcus missed, improved every single design I've thrown at you. This? He gestured to the foundation. This is just a problem, and we solve problems. Together. Together, Sophie repeated, something warm blooming in her chest despite the crisis. Also, Alexander added, his expression turning slightly wicked, you're wearing a dress and heels to a construction site. That's commitment. Slightly insane commitment, but still. Sophie laughed despite everything. I was in the middle of getting ready when... Wait, you were getting ready too, weren't you? I may have been in the shower when I got the call. Alexander's ears turned slightly pink. Had to throw clothes on pretty fast. Pretty sure my shirt's inside out. Sophie looked. It absolutely was. Alexander Morrison, your shirt is inside out. Well, I was stressed. I had a date with this woman who terrifies me and also makes me forget how shirts work. I terrify you? Absolutely. You're brilliant, gorgeous, and violent. It's an intimidating combination. Alexander was grinning now, and despite the mud and the crisis and the ruined date, Sophie felt herself smiling back. Your shirt is still inside out. Don't care. We have bigger problems. Alexander pulled out his phone, already calling contractors. Okay, here's what we're going to do. 4 hours later, they were on the rooftop of the half-finished building, sitting on a stack of lumber, eating take-out Chinese food from the place that delivered to construction sites at 11 p.m., covered in mud, exhausted, and somehow having the best time Sophie had ever had. So, Alexander said, attempting to use chopsticks and failing. This is technically still our first date, right? Sophie looked around at the construction site, the city lights of Manhattan spread out around them, the half-eaten containers of lo mein. This is the worst first date in history. Really? I thought I was doing pretty well. I got you dinner, a view, mood lighting. He gestured to the construction lights. Very romantic. Your shirt is still inside out. It's a fashion statement now. I'm starting a trend. Alexander finally gave up on the chopsticks and used a fork, although I have to admit this isn't how I planned tonight going. How did you plan it? Well, there was going to be an actual restaurant, with chairs and floors that aren't covered in mud. Alexander's expression turned more serious. And I was going to tell you that I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you slapped me in that elevator. Which sounds insane, but it's true. Sophie's heart stuttered. Alexander, let me finish, because I've been trying to say this for 2 weeks and keep getting interrupted. He set down his food, turning to face her fully. Sophie, you walked into my life, or rather violently assaulted your way into my life, and turned everything upside down. You're smart, passionate, funny, and you call me out when I'm being an idiot. Which is often. Very often, Sophie agreed, her voice softer than usual. And I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss. I know there are rules and policies and probably 17 HR violations happening right now. Alexander reached for her hand. But Sophie, when I said my eyes keep going back in that elevator, I was talking about the view. But now, he looked at her, really looked at her. Now my eyes keep going back to you. Always you. Sophie forgot how to breathe. That's really smooth for someone wearing an inside-out shirt and covered in mud. I'm a man of contradictions. Alexander's thumb traced circles on her hand. So, Sophie Bennett, woman who assaulted me, terrified me, and somehow made me fall for her in 2 weeks. What do you think? I think, Sophie leaned closer, I think if you're going to kiss me, you should probably ask first. Consent works both ways. Alexander's smile was brilliant. Sophie Bennett, can I kiss you? Yes, but Sophie held up a finger. If you make one joke about the view, the city, I'm talking about the city view. It's beautiful. Manhattan at night, the lights, the skyline. Alexander was already pulling her closer. But also, yeah, you're a beautiful view too. Is that allowed now? Shut up and kiss me, Morrison. Yes, ma'am. He kissed her, and it was nothing like Sophie imagined first kisses should be. They were covered in mud, sitting on lumber, surrounded by construction equipment, and it was absolutely perfect. Alexander's hand cupped her face, gentle despite his earlier jokes, and Sophie felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. When they broke apart, Alexander rested his forehead against hers. So, about the HR thing. Way to ruin a moment. I'm serious. I don't want this to cost you your job or your reputation. Alexander pulled back slightly. I already talked to the board. I'm recusing myself from direct supervision. Marcus is coming back part-time to co-lead Riverside with you. That way there's no conflict of interest. Sophie blinked. You already arranged that? I had a feeling we'd end up here. Alexander's smile was sheepish. Call it optimistic planning or possibly delusional hoping. But Sophie, I meant what I said. I want this. I want you. But only if we can do it right. You're telling me you predicted we'd end up making out on a construction site. I predicted we'd end up together somehow. The construction site was a bonus. Alexander stood, pulling her up with him. Come on, I should get you home. You're covered in mud and it's almost midnight. Such a gentleman. Always. Alexander kept hold of her hand as they picked their way back down to ground level. Although I have to say, this is definitely the most memorable first date I've ever had. Better than the one you planned. So much better. Alexander paused at his car, a Tesla that was now going to get mud all over it. Sophie? Yeah? I'm really glad you slapped me, Sophie laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet street. I'm really glad I misunderstood what you were looking at. Want to know a secret? Alexander opened her door. When I said my eyes kept going back in that elevator, I was looking at the view, but I'd also noticed you, the woman with coffee on her shirt, trying so hard to be invisible. I thought you were interesting then. I just didn't know how to say it without sounding like a creep. So you decided to say the creepiest possible thing. It made sense at the time. Alexander got in the driver's side, starting the car. In my defense, I'd just flown in from Italy and was jet-lagged. That's not a defense. It's the only defense I have. Alexander reached over, lacing his fingers through hers. So, second date. Somewhere without structural failures. I don't know. I'm kind of fond of disaster dates now. They're our thing. Our thing. I like that. Alexander pulled into traffic, and Sophie watched the city lights blur past the windows. Her phone buzzed. A text from Priya. Girl, if you don't text me back in the next 5 minutes, I'm calling the police. Did you kiss him? Did he kiss you? Details. Sophie typed back one-handed. Later. Currently living a rom-com. Priya. I knew it. Team Sophie, Alexander forever. Also, I'm naming your future children. Sophie. Way too soon for that conversation. Priya. Never too soon. I'm thinking Sophie Jr. and Alexander Jr. Simple. Classic. Sophie showed Alexander the text. He laughed so hard he almost missed their turn. Your friend is insane. Your friend now too. You're dating me. You get the whole package, Priya included. Worth it, Alexander said immediately. Then, softer. Definitely worth it. 6 months later, Sophie and Alexander stood in the elevator of the building where it all started. The same glass elevator, the same view of the city. Still a beautiful view, Alexander said, looking out at the skyline. Sophie turned to him with mock suspicion. If you're talking about the city, I'm talking about you, always you. He kissed her right there in the elevator, and Sophie couldn't help but laugh against his lips. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. A woman with a briefcase stared at them. Get a room, people. Sophie and Alexander broke apart, both grinning. At least she didn't slap you, Sophie whispered. Give it time. I'm very slappable, apparently. Only by me. That's girlfriend privilege now. Alexander pulled her close as the doors closed again. Girlfriend, I like that title. Better than guy I assaulted in an elevator. So much better. The elevator descended, and Sophie watched their reflection in the glass, her and Alexander together, the city lights twinkling behind them. Hey, she said softly. Yeah? My eyes keep going back too. To you. Alexander's smile was brilliant, beautiful, and entirely hers. Best misunderstanding of my life, he said. Mine too, Sophie agreed. And as the elevator carried them down into the bright lights of Manhattan, Sophie couldn't help but think that sometimes the best love stories started with the worst first impressions. And maybe, just maybe, a well-placed slap.